And look, it's been great seeing how proactive in his own development he was prior to training camp. He took from OTAs last time I was standing here. He took what he needed to work on, and he really made the most of it when he came back. And so, when he comes to training camp, I think what he's doing a great job right now is he's making great decisions. He's comfortable in the system. He's playing within the system. He's just taking what the defense has given us, and so that's what excites me. Even when sometimes it looks like it's a scramble and it looks like a bad play or a throwaway, and that's sometimes that's a great job by him.
Is there something you're really looking forward to seeing from him on Friday, like with him getting actual significant playing time?
Yeah, look, that's basically it. Just him play within the system. I think right now we're in the process. We're still in the evaluation process. Like it's not the stats, what you do in a preseason game. There's a rhyme and a reason for what you're doing. And to me, I think like last week was big on us just trying to figure out like, hey, this is how we're going to do pregame at the hotel and just go with that. So right now it's more about him just executing, the game plan, just playing within the system and just making the routine plays routinely.
Well, he says things every now and then about the importance of getting a team in and out of the huddle. And I think fans hear that and they think, well, duh. I mean, that seems so obvious. But is that harder than it seems? And do people not get that sometimes?
Well, look, I mean, it is the obvious, right? There's a play clock rolling, but I think, a critical element to our offense is personnel groupings. You like to, you're not just running the same personnel every single snap. And so, we say all the time, we want people, we need to get in and out the huddles. We need to get to the line so the quarterback can ID things, can ID the pressures, make his mic IDs. We need to get on and off the field. So after a snap, like when I say the personnel grouping, the guys, all that kind of plays into it all. So when we say tempo, that's not necessarily us just, breaking the huddle, how we approach the line of scrimmage. It's more from the time the plays into the quarterback to us taking the line to making the decisions and kind of going.
What did you learn about that communication process last year, going through some of those issues? Because there were some times at different points last year when that was an issue.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just the sense of urgency with everybody. We talk about as an offense, the urgency. We talk a lot about like urgent enjoyment. We want to be urgent about everything we do and how we attack the day. We want to enjoy doing it. Well, when they're at the huddle, let's be urgent. Let's break the line of scrimmage. Let's have a sense of purpose while we're doing it, so that when we're up there, we're not, hey, 3, 2, 1, having to snap the football. It's like, hey, I can identify things, I can redo things, and I can communicate with the quarterback, that type of stuff. So just more about just the sense of urgency.
When will you know you have something, or at least you have what you feel like you need from him in a game? Like, will it be a game situation, or how long will it take for you to feel like you have something?
I have something with him. I'm confident in Sam. I feel like he has a great grasp of the offense right now. And, it's one of those things you see that he might not have had a lot of preseason game reps right now, but, the amount of reps that you would normally get in a preseason week or a preseason game, a 4-game season, we had 2 joint practices. So where he might be getting, 40, 50 total reps in a preseason, he's already gotten 60, 70 going against the Colts and the Ravens and their ones. And so, I'm excited to see him on obviously Friday, but then as we get going next week.
What did you learn about him at Wofford, where you're kind of really there in a confined territory, so you're behind the scenes a little bit? What was he like around there? Any difference you saw? Or?
Well, yeah, I mean, he loves football. I mean, he's a competitive person. He's one of those guys. You guys saw it. I mean, he was beating everybody out on the football field. That's not just someone telling him, hey, you got to be the first one out. That's just kind of who he is. And, he's really taken upon himself, and the teammates are kind of feeding off it. And so, when you see out there, you see a guy that he's just not one of those just kind of going through the motion. He wants to be coached. He wants to be coached hard. If there is a mistake, obviously I want to ask the why and kind of find out why, but he kind of sees it now. He knows it. And so just kind of getting a feel. It's all about the relationship with the quarterback. And, going through training camp when we're just isolating, it's all ball. You get an opportunity to really, establish that relationship. And so.
Sense of humor that you've noticed or something?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love Sam. Sam will joke. He's a guy that's, sometimes he gets too competitive, which, sometimes on the headsets, I got to, kind of, get something where he can just relax a little bit. Not in a negative way, but but he does have a sense of humor. He's not, I don't want to call him a Cali guy, but he's a guy where he's chill, but he'll get a little joke. And sometimes I'll look at him and be like, I like that. That was good there. But no, I loved coaching him. I loved what he's brought this football team. And I think the offense is kind of feeding off of him.
Coach Rule and Scott Fitter have talked about the offensive line as being an area where they would at least like to increase depth. Can you talk about that group and how you feel about them and your level of comfortability with them?
No, I feel extremely comfortable with those guys. And I think the thing that excites me about what we have in the offensive line room is I feel like we have versatility. Just the reality of it in it's a 17-game season. How often we're able to get the same 5 guys and to go for 17 games, that's tough. And so when we have depth that we feel like right now where guys can play, play both tackle spots, can move around, play tackle and guard, get in comfort level with who they're playing with and the communication. So I think that offensive line group. I think the depth that we have there. I've actually been extremely excited about how they've been working, and when injuries happen, the guys just move around, and they haven't missed a beat.
How hard is it to balance kind of in the preseason, like going back to not scoring in the red zone, wanting to be in the base, but also wanting to score? How do you go about trying to balance that and trying to get the work you want done?
Yeah, I think it's easy to say like, hey, we don't game plan, but I mean, obviously you're running plays, but it's more of a standpoint of it's an evaluation. We just want the execution. If we just come out there and try to not saying it's up, but if we just try to sit there and say, hey, we're going to move this guy around, shift it to get this matchup, I want to see sometimes guys just figure it out when it's not an ideal look and not an ideal matchup. And sometimes you're really just trying to see, hey, let's try to get this guy going a little bit today. Let's see what this rookie can do. We're in a season, everything obviously matters. And so obviously you want to win the football game. You want to score touchdowns at the red zone. You want to convert on third down. That's all the obvious, but sometimes it's also about, hey, we're not going to put you in a great position. Sometimes we just got to figure it out and see who can win a one-on-one matchup without having to dictate that type of stuff.
Matt kind of picked 3 teams in this preseason that are built very much around defense. How much do you kind of salivate at that opportunity, but also how much has it helped you?
I mean, first off, going against our defense every day has helped us, and then when you get an opportunity to go against Baltimore, go against Indianapolis, go against Pittsburgh, we're all completely different type of defenses, so you're able to, quote unquote, work your base runs, base passes, but also get different looks. I think that's been great for us. You get to really get a feel of how you stack up against them, but also you get to work plays that you're not necessarily going against your guys every single day.
If I could ask you to zoom out for 1 second, how would you assess where you are with this offense right now versus where you hope to be at this point in camp?
Well, I think, look, you're always, every single day, you're trying to get better. When you go against a team for 2 weeks, you're kind of focused on getting ready to practice those, against those guys. Where we've had a chance to be able to kind of take a step back right now, and we're not practicing against the team, so we're able to kind of put in some more install, kind of continue to just cut back on things. I think early in training camp, you're always putting things in, and you're trying to see, hey, what can we do? Hey, can this guy run this route? Can we run this blocking scheme? And then as the training camp goes, you start kind of cutting so that when the season time comes, you're ready to go and you know exactly kind of who you are with an identity-wise. So obviously we got a week to go with that, and we're still in the evaluation process, but I feel really good about where our guys are and their comfort level within the system.
What's your example of Sam gives too serious?
And I guess that's probably not the right, he's competitive. When you do a period of, say you do a third down period in a game, it's 3rd and 4 and, you convert it, you keep the drive along. If you don't, you're off the field. Well, a third down period in camp, for a team is you got 3rd and 4, then it's 3rd and 5, then it's 3rd and 6. Well, you just got to keep going in a third down period. And so, sometimes it's tough if it's a 3rd and 8. It's a hard situation as it is, and if you don't get it, it's frustrating. And so you got to be, hey, let's move on. So let's find the next completion. Let's get on it with it. So it's not necessarily too serious. Serious is probably the wrong word. It's more of he's so competitive that naturally it's going to bother him when he doesn't have success with it. And sometimes it's like, all right, hey, I know we didn't get that last 3rd and 7, but now it's 3rd and 8. It's just like the next 3rd and 8 in the play. So it's more about just getting that what's next mentality.
Have there been any guys who surprised you that you were like, whoa, I didn't expect that from him?
I'm probably the worst one. I'm very big on like speaking more from a group standpoint. I've loved what our tight ends have done. The group, how they've worked, how they've all kind of brought something different to the table, their versatility. I've loved, their work ethic and their approach. So without, putting individual, I'm more on like how the group is. But that tight end group, they haven't surprised me. It was the expectation, but I've loved how they've come out and worked every single day.
Should Christian just plan on touching it 400 times this year, or are you cognizant of trying to make that number smaller?
Yeah, I think you're going into every week, and obviously it's hard to put an exact number on a full season. And obviously you like, him getting the carries at the end of the games. That means we're able to run the football and, at the end of the game, when for the wins. I think you go into a game with a mindset on how many plays are in a game and how many times you like him to get the ball. You'd like him to get the ball if there's, 70 times, you like him to get the ball 70 times. But the reality of it is, we obviously have to be smart with that. And so no, we're not sitting there having the mindset of like, hey, it's 300 touches, it's 400 touches. It's a game to game, and it's it's situationally, and we just have to kind of evaluate week to week.
Are you planning on being on the sideline again during regular season games, or are you going to be at the booth?
I think that's a conversation for with Coach Rule, but I have a comfort level both in the box and on the field.
Friday, you're going to be up there.
I believe so, yes.
And then how do you view the backup quarterback battle right now?
No, it's good. It's been interesting because they've had like the exact amount of reps, throughout camp. So it's not one of those where, one guy has got more of a share of the other. I mean, so I think they're both feeding off one another. Some of it, you look in the game and, the first, against Indianapolis, PJ obviously got a little more opportunities to throw the ball. Last week, Will had more of an opportunity, so it's not strictly only about the games. It's more about the practices and everything like that. And so I feel confident in our backup quarterback situation. And, I know that they're both feeding off one another and feeding off of Sam. And I'm excited to see them on Friday.
With that 17th game, you got to be more cognizant though of saving Christian's body for the long haul, because if you say you make the playoffs too, I mean 17 games plus that, it gets to be a while.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, that's a big reason why we in this offseason we felt like we've continued to develop that running back room, the tight end room, everybody, the quarterback position, everybody else, is going to help. Christian McCaffrey is going to help, take potentially a load off of Christian. If you ask Christian, Christian's ready for whatever it takes. And, and so, yeah, no, we're definitely cognizant of that, and we understand that situation and whatnot. And it's not one of those situations where game one, we're going to touch it 80 times and then evaluate. But we're going to be smart about it. But at the end of the day, we're going to do everything we can to put ourselves in a position to have success.
What can Terrace unlock in this offense that you didn't have before?
I don't think it's something that we didn't have before. It's just about Terrace just being Terrace Marshall, and and it's been encouraging to see him make some plays in the preseason games, and for a lot of the rookies, seeing Tommy Tremble, Terrace, Chuba, like the guys just showing that they can play in this league, they belong in this league, and so it's been encouraging, and I'm exciting, and they just have to have that mindset of. The consistency to be an NFL player, it's about being consistent day in and day out. And so it's not what you did yesterday, it's about what you're going to do today. And so that's something that, rookies naturally always have to work on.
Would you say among the rookies, his transition has been the most seamless?
No, I wouldn't necessarily say that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still the transition. It's still, you're still having to, win in man coverage. You're still having to, identify coverages that you might not have seen. So there's still going to be a transition. So I wouldn't say it's the most seamless, but I've been encouraged about how he's played in the preseason games and, the plays that he's made, on the football.
Joe, does your offense need a fullback?
I've loved what our fullbacks have brought to us. I love, Gio, what Gio's doing right now. Does it need a fullback? It doesn't need a fullback. That's for Coach Rule and Fitz and just figure out we're going to find the best, put the best 11 on the football field in the matchups. And if that's a fullback, that's a fullback. If it's, all wide receivers, it's all wide receivers. So, I like every position.
Because you mentioned the tight end room, because there seems to be an upgrade there. And what can you do more so than you could last year because of that?
Well, again, it's we're a completely different offense than we were last year. Just the type of people that we have, the bodies, the versatility, and so it's the thought in our mind of comparing how we were last year kind of hasn't struck our mind, and so it's more about just when you have a bunch of guys, you have guys that can stretch a seam, you have guys that are great at the point of attack, you have guys that are great route runners, you have a mix of versatility that you feel like is going to be beneficial from a game planning standpoint and from a matchup standpoint. You hope come season time.
Joe, this is something we already asked Coach Rule about, but just wanted to know your opinion. How you prepare the team to face opponents that have several defensive players using single-digit numbers?
It's the reality of it. I like to say, to me, it's no different. We go into every game and. You're studying who the numbers are. I think for quarterbacks that have been in the league for a while, there's probably some type of an adjustment where they're used to seeing 30s, 40s, 20s, or 50s that talk to them. But at the end of the day, I think when if you're preparing and you're ready to go, you'll notice that guy that used to be 52 and he's now number 2. I'll know, hey, that's a linebacker, or hey, that's a stand-up DN. So, I think initially it was a big thing, but it is what it is, and I think our guys will prepare, and it'll be a seamless transition.
The red zone has been an issue. We'll do a couple more. The red zone has been an issue since last year. Have you been doing something different to change the efficiency in the red zone?
Yeah, I think. I've obviously in the game, it's like we were kind of talking about before. Then you still want to score touchdowns regardless, but I think it's. There's a fine line of literally running everything that you've run out here and just saying, hey, we're going to run our base stuff and watching our guys execute. I think we haven't looked at it as saying, hey, because we took a sack, we got stopped in 4th and 1. Like, hey, we have a huge issue. At the end of the day, we didn't score, and that's an issue in that game. But at the end of the day, we're preparing, we're evaluating, we're trying to execute and get ready for week 1 of the season when it matters, and that's when our red zone has to be ready to rock.
How would you characterize your comfort level with your ability to go vertical with the passing game?
I'm comfortable with our passing game. I think now our guys are starting to get their legs back a little more. It's you definitely saw the last couple days in Walford. The guys, they were working. So, naturally you can see the little difference. And, a go route that usually is caught at a certain yard mark, they're not necessarily getting to that point. So I feel comfortable in our, vertical passing game, and I feel comfortable Sam executing, the plays that are given. Appreciate you guys.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
When's the next time I see you?
Move to bring in the new kicker. What went into that decision, and how do you feel about where your kicking room is?
Yeah, I mean, obviously everything we're doing is still being evaluated in competition. So bringing in competition and bringing in a guy who can come and compete and do it right. I think Dominic's shown that just even in his workout and what he did in Las Vegas.
What did you, after this last preseason game, did you talk to Joey, and what has that conversation been like?
Yeah, I mean, we talk constantly. It's kind of the same kind of conversations as always, like where we can improve in certain areas, the things we gotta get better at as a unit to make him more comfortable and confident, and just making sure every day is he's competing with himself even before someone was here. So that's the biggest conversation, is he's just got to go out and execute. He does it in practice. We got to take it to the game.
Is there a mechanical or technical thing he's doing?
I mean, he's got his whole process of the way he goes. Every kicker is a little bit slightly different, but he has his whole process and checklist that he goes through, and is, there's just for whatever reason, a couple kicks just didn't click, and that's what we got to get corrected.
With evaluating both kickers now, how do you divvy up that playing time in Friday's preseason game?
Yeah, we'll figure that out. Obviously, we haven't had that conversation yet, so talking with both these guys, with head coach, when Coach Rule decides, he'll be obviously the guy to ultimately make the decision. So I'll probably know, and then you guys will know.
Is there enough time to evaluate both of them fairly in order to make a decision?
Yeah, I think obviously we have a lot of information on Joey. Have a lot of trying to get more and more. We're going to gather as much information as we can on Dominic in a short period of time, and try to make the best decision going forward.
What did you see in Dominic that made him someone you wanted to bring in to compete?
He's very repeatable swing, smooth, just confident in what he's doing, really comfortable talking with guys that have worked with him as specialist coaches, different teams, personal coaches, things like that have had a good insight with him. Helped me to bring him in and us to be confident when he came in and performed yesterday. Did really well.
With Joey, is it just an inconsistency in games versus practice, or have you kind of seen some shakiness all around?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, he's done well in practice, and he's done really well. And that's the unfortunate part about this business is, especially in a specialist world, is you can perform day in, day out, but when that time happens in the game, we've got to perform, and we've got to be at our best when our best is needed, and that's the ultimate test of a specialist.
Is one of the things maybe with Joey that I've seen talking to him over the last couple of years is, do you think maybe he's just too much in his own head right now? Because he is very technical, and he just things, he's very technical in the way he does things, and maybe overthinks it. Do you think that's a problem?
Yeah, I mean, again, there's different approaches for everybody. It's just like golfers. Like some guys are super technical and go, and some guys just swing and feel it. And he's a technical kicker. He likes to know what's happening with the swing and can be able to be evaluating it constantly. That's his process. That's worked for him. And honestly, it was helping him along the progress. And for whatever reason, there's something missing right now that we'll get right, and he'll correct, and we'll make those corrections and move forward.
Chase, is Dominic someone you guys have had an eye on for a while? It sounds like you've done a good bit of research into him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you always try to keep up to date no matter what your situation is. You never know when injury happens. Obviously, going through it, had Graham before and had the same situation where he got injured in camp, and it's kind of like, all right, you got to go. So you always have a list of guys, and so I always try to continue staying up with certain people and within the circle, and have a good aspect of who could come in and help us out. Dominic's the guy that I looked at coming out of college and kept up with throughout the time. Have a good relationship with the guys he's been around. So that's kind of how it all came about so quickly.
Were there conversations about bringing someone, just because Joey went through, I mean, virtually all training camp without competition, was there conversations about bringing someone in sooner to compete with him?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's always been a conversation. We brought guys in early in off season. We brought guys in for the mini camp. We had guys here, so it's been a conversation. He was just kicking so well that he kind of felt like there's not really a need at this point to, as the rosters go, and you got many guys with injuries and fatigue through camp, and trying to use another roster spot where we already have 5 guys or 4. We had 4 guys. It's kind of like taking another position player away, another receiver, another corner, and having to divvy those reps up. Now you put other guys at risk. So it was obviously Scott and Coach Rule made the final decisions on all this stuff and have a good game plan in their head about what it looks like and how many guys we need each position. And at this time, he felt like we could bring a guy in and could afford it for this week.
A couple of guys maybe are borderline for a position, but have been so impressive to you on special teams, they've got a good shot at making it.
I mean, I think there's a lot of guys that have performed well. Honestly, I think you could look at every position group that's done well and made a good case for themselves. We talk about it in our room all the time. Like, you're not auditioning for just us; you're auditioning for 31 other teams, and guys have bought into that and went out and played with great effort. I thought the last couple weeks we've really put forth a good effort on teams, and guys have stepped up to the plate when they've needed to. But it's not over. We still got another week to evaluate, and these guys got to keep stepping up and separating themselves.
The fact that Joey went to a mental coach or psychologist, whatever he did during the offseason to work with that aspect, is that a red flag to you that?
Almost every specialist does. I mean, I think you'd say half the locker room does. I mean, even when I was playing decades ago, right? Like, it feels like forever. Hey, but guys were doing it, right? Like, it was kind of taboo. You didn't talk about it. Now it's become more socially acceptable, I guess, or whatever you say. And so he's open and honest about it, which actually I think helps him through that process of being able to own up to it and say, hey, this is what I do. But that's just where we are.
Would you consider the return spots still kind of open, or you think David is locked down both of those?
Yeah, every spot is still open to me. Like you just asked. I mean, I think all these backup guys, the core teams guys that could help us as a 4th safety, 5th safety, 4th corner, 5th receiver, all that stuff, I think it's still in flux. And every day, that's what Coach Rule and Scott and their crew does every day, is evaluate those guys day in, day out, and the returns will be no different.
How would you assess the battle between Fletch and JJ?
It's been good. They've both been competing every day. They come out and work. For us to be able to have 2 snappers that we feel really comfortable with and be able to compete, throw them in there at any point in the game, any point in practice with the 1s and the 2s, and mix it up and have that same operation, same consistency is huge for us.
Who's ahead?
We'll see.
Can that impact? I know obviously the holder impacts the kicker and all that, but can having different long snappers also impact?
Definitely. I mean, it all plays a part. I mean, everyone's got to get used to it. No different than if you have a different personal protector in the game and his cadence is slightly slower, slightly faster, or there's a pause before the set or whatever. All that stuff plays into it, like the rhythm of it, the timing, the placement, all that. But at the end of the day, we got to make kicks. Everyone's got to do their 1/3. We got to get the snap. He's got to do his 1/3, put it on the spot, put it on the money with the laces. Holder's got to get the snap, receive it, put it down on the spot, set it with the right laces forward, and get the tilt right. And then a kicker's got to put it through. So we all affect each other, especially in this small group of specialists. We all affect what each other does. We've got to perform our 1/3.
Wish you had a bubble decades ago.
What's that?
Wish you had a bubble decades
Oh
ago.
man, I know. Well, we had a bubble like this, kind of. Not one.
Not here.
Not here, no. But we had the convention center at that point. We used to go walk through over there.
I was going to ask you to break down the 1/3 that you just explained and even how that impacts your evaluation as you consider all those factors.
Yeah, I mean, we evaluate every single snap, every single hold, every single kick, and we evaluate them together as they go apart, as they go as a whole, as they go individually, if that makes sense. Like, we'll break each guy down individually, and then we'll break down, all right, that was a great snap with a bad hold and a good kick, or like however that, whatever that translates to, and we do a whole process broken down through that to give us the best evaluation we can as possible as we break this thing.
Any other questions? Sure. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. You guys have a great one.
Thanks.
Time to go work out.